What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's doing great. The Dallas Cowboys very simply have an Ezekiel Elliot problem, and they need to fix it. Otherwise, their title hopes are going to go down the drain because they've been doing this. He has this knee injury, and they've been doing this thing where they're trying to manage it. Knee injury, managing those for running backs that are supposed to be bell cows, and they're starting to kind of tear down. Not a good idea. It really reminds me of Todd Gurley from a few years ago with the Rams, where it just kind of came out of nowhere with his downfall. And I just think that Zeke is on a very similar path, having an extreme amount of touches over the last few years, and it might have just built up on him. And hopefully he doesn't have anything chronic with his knees or anything like that. But just look at these last like 4 or 5 games. The Falcons, he averaged 2.9 yards a carry. It's the Falcons. They suck. You should do better than that. The Chiefs, 3.6 yards a carry. Notoriously one of the worst defenses in the entire league. The Raiders, 2.8 yards a carry. Same song and dance as the Chiefs and Falcons. And then tonight he averaged 3.5 yards a carry. This is a guy that averaged over 4 or 5 yards a carry every single season of his career. Like, to have this bad of a stretch, and his knee apparently got hurt in like week 5 is what they said. And that was ironically like one of his last good games, because since then, like he hasn't gone over 20 carries since week 6, which for a guy that's supposed to be a bell cow back, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, he's getting paid like top 5 running back money for him to be producing like this. It's got to be simply because of his injury, because Tony Pollard, his backup, comes in and just lights it up every single time, makes the right cuts. He's explosive. He can play inside the tackles. Like, Pollard looks like the right player right now for the Cowboys. And I really think that they need to sit Zeke out for probably 2 to 3 weeks. They've got a lead in their division. They're going to make the playoffs. Their team is talented enough to win without him. So I think they should really give him 2 to 3 weeks off of rest to try and get him back to 100% instead of trying to manage the injury, because all you're going to do is just limit your potential down the line. Like, you need him to be Ezekiel Elliot. And if he's not Ezekiel Elliot, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. Like, that's what it seems like their hopes are right now. So if your best player is not able to be his best self, you're going to just kill your own chances. And obviously he's going to go out there and play anytime you let him. Most of those players are just alpha athletes. They're not going to sit unless you tell them they have to. And I had a quote right here. He even said, he injured his right knee in the week 4 victory over the Panthers. He didn't show up on the practice report until week 10. He said that I've been dealing with it for almost 2 months now. It's gotten a little better, but it does get a little stiff. He said in regards to resting, he said, if they bring it up to me, I've just got to go with what they think is best for the team and leave it at that. So even he understands that, like, if they say they're going to rest me, I will sit. So that, I think whoever's in management needs to step up, or whoever's in charge of the offense, somebody's got to step in and say, hey, we're going to sit you down for a couple weeks because we want you to be at your fullest when we really need you, because it's kind of been proven the last several years that just being a pass heavy offense isn't going to be reliable enough in the playoffs. You have to be able to run the ball. And Pollard's great, but I don't think he's like that guy. I don't think he's that guy in the playoffs. I would rather have Zeke be at 100% for that. You know, you're paying him like 15 plus million to do this. So I think you have to take that chance and sit him now. Because, I mean, he hasn't gone over 100 yards since October 10th. So basically 2 months ago was the last time he went over 100 yards. Hasn't cleared the 20 carries. Even the last good game he had by statistic measures was against the Broncos, and they got blown out. So it wasn't really all that important. He had 10 carries for 51 yards. But the game before that, 16 carries, 50 yards. Game before that, 17 carries, 69 yards. And then he had the great game against the Giants. So he's basically had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row that were all lackluster or not up to his standards. And if you look at that, that's kind of right after when that knee injury happened. So I'm kind of chalking this up to it's just the injury and it's not his actual talent. He just can't cut as well as he used to, and he's not as powerful because he doesn't have that explosion in his legs. Like the games before he got hurt, you know, the Buccaneers have like a top run defense, so I'm not really going to put too much effort into that. The Chargers, 4.4 yards a carry. The Eagles, 5.6. The Panthers, 7.2. The Giants, 5.2 yards a carry. He was absolutely dominating, and they were dominating in those games. You know, they lost to the Bucs in a close game. They beat the Chargers. they smoked the Eagles, they killed the Panthers, and then they thrashed the Giants. So like it looks pretty simple to me. You just need to rest the guy. Otherwise, you're just handicapping yourself. It makes no sense. I'm very curious. Do you guys think that the Cowboys will actually sit him down and rest him and take the chance for like a couple weeks? Because I mean, honestly, it looks like Pollard could hold it down. Like I would not be surprised if Pollard went out there and like all of a sudden looked like a top, I'm gonna say 15 running back, because there's those top 10 guys or whatever. You kind of got to give them their credit, but I think it'd be really, really valuable for them to do that, because they just, I mean, yeah, they beat the Saints tonight and they did it kind of convincingly, but it was more so the Saints really just suck now because they don't have a quarterback. They don't have much of an offense. They don't really have any great receivers to rely on. Kamara's out. Like it just looks all around bad for the Saints. So I'm not really taking too much of that into consideration for the Cowboys season, I guess is what I'm going for, because I just don't think the Saints are that great. But the last two games that they played before, like they were like, what was it? They lost to the Broncos. They lost to the Falcons. Or no, they beat the Falcons. They thrashed them. Lost to the Chiefs, lost to the Raiders, and then beat a Saints team that kind of just shot themselves in the foot every single time. So they were losing games that they should have won. They should have beat the Broncos. They should have beat the Falcons. The Chiefs, okay, I'll give you some slack because Patrick Mahomes is legit. And then the Raiders, they should have beat the Raiders, even though the game was close. Like, that's a game that their talent should beat them. Yeah, they didn't have Amari Cooper, or I don't think they had CeeDee Lamb either, but I still think the Raiders offense doesn't really compare. See, that's a game like that, though, is the one where you really need, what he had 9 carries for 25 yards against the Raiders. You really need him to be that guy against that he was against the Panthers with 20 carries and 143 yards. So I don't know. I think they really need to consider sitting him down because he does not look like himself. And it's just going to become a bigger issue down the line. It just looks so much like that Todd Gurley thing where they started to have to rely on the backup. And that was CJ Anderson at the time. He did really well. They got to the Super Bowl, and then their offense was absolutely horrid against the Bill Belichick coached Patriots. So I think they got to get him back. They need him at 100% or at least close to it. This whole managing it thing doesn't make any sense. Just sit down, get healthy, come back for when their team is really, really going to need you. If you guys have a different opinion or you agree or something like that, let me know in the comments. I'm very interested to see what people's thoughts and opinions are on this, because I think he's a much better player overall than that his past play is suggesting. And if you got to this far in the video, do me a huge favor here, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Yeah, everybody have a great night.